in order to be considered like a Semite, you actually needed to come through the line of the other son, who I believe it's Shem.
Yep.
And so, how do they connect and make us or them, not me, but them or Black people Jews?
That's a good question. That I think that one might be above my pay grade.
That's okay.
As I often say, don't try to make it make sense. It is not very biblical at all.
So as I said, she's supposed to be an authoritarian on Hebrew Israelites. And now I'm going to give you another book reference. This reference is the Jew, a Negro, right? And the Jew, a Negro explains some things. So we're going to open that up and we're going to show you from the book. Okay, now we're going to go into this book. This is the Jew, a Negro, being a study of Jewish ancestry from the impartial standpoint by Arthur T. Abernethy, AM.Ph.D., right? So he's a doctor of divinity. And it was published by Dixie. How about that? Dixie Publishing Company. Moravian Falls, North Carolina, down south, right? So we're going to go to page 54, right? And let's see, let's go to, 54. Is that what I want? 54. Okay, we're going to start right here where it says the earliest instances of intermarriage, right? It says, the beginning of mankind, as we have already stated, was from three men, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We have learned from Genesis 11 and 2 that they traveled from the east and settled in the plain of Shinar. We know from scriptures that Abraham went into Canaan about 5 years after Ham's death. If we account the usual chronology for its believed, Ham lived about 450 years. Let us not forget that the Jews of the one descent directly from Abraham. Any evidence of intermarriage traceable to Abraham's family or his immediate posterity has direct bearing on this contention. What are the historical facts? Abraham was the son of Terah. I'm going too fast here. Who is mentioned in Genesis as a descendant of Shem, right? So she's asking the question. How can we know that the Negroes came from Shem? We're telling you now. So it says that. Let me go back. Terah, who is mentioned in Genesis as a descendant of Shem, was born in Ur of the Chaldees, right? Who we have already learned were doubtless Hamitic. So in this book, he breaks down who the Chaldeans were. Okay. And we'll go back to that page, but let me just finish where I'm going here. Who we have already learned were doubtless Hamitic, and we know from Genesis that ancestors of Abraham had dwelt for many centuries in the land of Chaldees. Terah, Abraham's father, had been a worshiper of idols, and what is more important, the people of Mesopotamia are referred to by, he uses Jehovah, as thy brethren. When the call was given to Abraham to get him out from Haran, where his father had died, Abraham's father, Terah, was the son-in-law of Nimrod. According to the Eastern authors, this would give us added proof of the direct descent of Abraham himself from what? Negro ancestry. How about that? So the writer says that Ham had Negro ancestry because he was the grandson of the Negro Nimrod. Let's go further. He said, let this fact be further borne in mind. It was in the lower parts of the Tigris-Euphrates Valley the Semitic family mingled with the people already in possession of the soil and formed a mixed people known as Chaldeans. And it was from the land of the Chaldees Abraham was born. Let us take a case of Shemaiah. Okay, we're going to stop there. We're not going to read about Shemaiah. Now, I want to show you about the Chaldeans. Okay, so we're winding down. We're going to take you to page 15 now of the same book, The Jew, a Negro. Okay, and here he has a chart of people. He says the following table shows principal nations which have descended from ancient races. So he has the Aryan race, Semitic race, and the Hamitic race, right? So under Aryan, he has Persians, Hindus, Greeks, Romans, Celts, Teutons, Slavs. Okay, and he has French, Italian, Spaniards, Portuguese, Welsh, Irish, Highland, Britain, Scots, Germans, Dutch, English, Swedes, Danes, Norwegians, Russians, Poles, Bohemians, right? And then he has under Semitic races, Assyrians, Hebrews, and Phoenicians, right? And then under Hamitic races, he has Chaldeans and Egyptians, right? Now, where are the other sons as far as to Cush and Ethiopia? I mean, Cush and Foot, right? I don't see those in his list. Maybe he didn't know where to put them. Okay. So other authorities give the children of Ham, the people of Ethiopia, Babylonia, Egypt, Colchians, Philistines, Libyans, okay, there we go, Canaanites, Sidonians, and Phoenicians. So he left them out of the chart. So I guess he wasn't quite sure where to put them on the chart. But other authorities give as the children of Ham, the people of Ethiopia, Babylonia, Egypt, and Colchians, Philistines, Libyans, Canaanites, Sidonians, and Phoenicians. He said the word Slavs really meant glorious, but came to have its present signification because at one time there were in Europe so many bondsmen of Slavic birth. Okay. Okay. So that's the chart on page 15, right? Okay, I have another source for you. The Negro in the New World by Sir Harry H. Johnston. We're going to go to page 27. Okay, page 27. 27. Okay, this talks about Asiatic Negroes. This is some good stuff here. Let's just kind of read. Let's get a starting point somewhere in here. Let's see. Let's start right here. The existing population of Solomon Islands, of New Ireland, and of the New Hebrides are much more Negro-like in physical appearance. In fact, perhaps the people of New Ireland are the most nearly akin to the African Negro of all the Asiatic or Australian peoples. How about that? Ever heard this terminology here? Asiatic Negroes. Say that again. Asiatic Negroes also seem to have entered Australia from New Guinea. So you got Asiatic Negroes, right? Negroes who came from Asia. Isn't that what we read in Ogilvy's book? They came from Asia into Africa. So you got Asiatic Negroes or Australian peoples. Asiatic Negroes also seem to have entered Australia from New Guinea and to have passed down the eastern part of that continent till they reached then the peninsula of Tasmania, right? Heard Tasmanian devil? Okay, there you go. Not, of course, without mingling with the Australoids. There is a Negroid melanin element in Fiji and as far west as the Hawaii archipelago and among the Maoris of New Zealand. In a new, much less degree, also in Burma, Annam, Hainan, Formosa, and Ryukyu Islands. Did I say that right? Ryukyu Islands of southern Japan. Now, here's the part you got to get right here. The Edomites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair. The Edomites of Mesopotamia. And have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. See that? Elamites of Mesopotamia. So you ask the question, who are the Edomites? Let's see. So let's go to the Table of Nations, Genesis chapter 10, where you get the nations of people. So in Genesis chapter 10, we're going to find something here. All right. So verse 21 says, unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born, right? Verse 22, the children of Shem, Elam. There goes Elam right there. Elam. Okay? Elam means hidden or distant, the son of Shem. So the children of Shem was Elam. Elam. So Elam, or the Elamites, the people we were just talking about, right, were Mesopotamians. So now we go back to the book. 27 says the Elamites of Mesopotamia appear to have been a Negroid people with kinky hair and have transmitted this racial type to the Jews and Syrians. There is a curliness of the hair together with the Negro eye and full lips in the portrait of Assyria, which conveys the idea of the evident Negro element in where? Babylonia. Quite probably the very ancient Negro invasion of Mediterranean Europe, of which the skeletons of the Alps Maritime are vestiges, came from Syria and Asia Minor on its way to Central and Western Europe. He says, it is possible that in or on the verge of Arabia, the ancient basal stock of the generalized Negro party divided into two great streams of divergent immigration, one to proceed to Europe via Syria and the other to pass through Arabia to Egypt and tropical Africa. In Arabia or in Egypt, it may be arose the difference between the long-headed African Negro and the rounder, shorter-headed Bushman. The last name become more habituated, than his congeners to a life in arid deserts or scrubby open country, right? Now, this little something, it says the African Negroes was again differentiated probably in East Africa into three main, let's go to the next page. Fossils are found in South Africa, the Sudan, the Forest Negro, and the Congo Pygmy of the Congo Basin, Cameroon's West Africa, Uganda, and portions of Baurau, Ghazal, with powerful torso, long arms, disproportionately short legs, very long head, considerably protagonism, prominent eyes, and long upper lips. Okay. And a Neolithic Negro. So, with that said, there's more proof, okay, of origin of the so-called Negroes and Shem. So Elam, once again, was a descendant of Shem. Okay. So this author says that the Shemites were a Negroid people. And as we have discovered, so not only was the Shemites that lived in Babylonia, he says Babylonians too in this same book, Babylonians, Elamites, and Cushites, because Cush, if you get the book From Babylon and Timbuktu, and there are other books, but this book comes to my mind, where he breaks down that Cush was not just that little state, as we like to call it, Ethiopia today, but it covered all of the territory where Saudi Arabia is. That was the land of Cush, and also extended into the Babylonian territory where, according to Genesis chapter 10, that was Nimrod's kingdom. And Nimrod was the son of Cush. Cush was the father of, as we call, Ethiopians, right? Okay, I'm going to give you another reference. And this reference is called A Tribute for the Negro. This is page 115 on the PDF, 64 on the book itself. What I want to do, I want to go back to the cover so you can see the cover. Okay. Okay, this is to earlier, the sister mentioned 100 years ago. This is William Armistead. And he wrote the book called The Tribute to the Negro, right? Looks like a Negro to me, right? Okay. And his book, let's go down here. Was published, it says, in 1848. This was published in 1848. So I'm not sure when it was wrote, when it was written or compiled, but Tribute for the Negro, a vindication of the moral intelligence and religious capabilities. Okay. So we go to page 115, right? And it says here, let's look at this paragraph right here, the Jews. It says, the Jews, however, slightly their features may have assimilated to those of other nations amongst whom they are scattered. From the causes already stated, certainly from a very striking example regards the uncertainty of perpetuity. Sorry about that. Get tired of reading. In color, descended from one stock and prohibited by the most sacred institutions from intermarrying with people of other nations, and yet dispersed according to the divine prediction to every country on the globe. This was one people is marked with the colors of all. He says fair in Brittany and Germany, brown in France, okay, and in Turkey, swarthy in Portugal and Spain, olive in Syria and Chaldea. Now, the man just said that the Mesopotamians, Chaldeans, were Negroes, so I guess they were black olives, okay? And tawny or copper colored in Arabia and in Egypt. Okay, copper colored. What does copper look like? Okay, so I put in copper color and these colors came out. I like this one better. So copper colored, how about that? Copper colored. Now let's go back to the book. Notice he did not say they were Mediterranean looking or Middle Eastern looking. It said copper colored in Egypt. Copper colored in Egypt. okay, in Arabia and in Egypt, while they are black, at Congo in Africa. Wait a minute. This man says that the Jews were black in Africa, in Congo, in the Congo. So where's the Congo? Okay, so I pulled the map up, and so you can see the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is in Africa, West Africa. How about that? So here's the sub-Saharan line that they want to try to say is separate from other part of Africa. Everybody here is supposed to be white or Mediterranean looking, and everybody down here is jet black, right? So that's what they say. But the man just said Congo. There goes South Sudan. How about that? Right? So there's tons and tons more. We can go all day long. Okay. Okay, I have another source for you. And this one is entitled The Contribution of the Negro to Human Civilization by Alexander Francis Chamberlain, PhD, Assistant Professor of Anthropology, Clark University, Worcester, Mass. Let's check it out. Okay. Now, this was uploaded by JSTOR, but there's actually a book. I actually have the book, but this is uploaded by JSTOR. And on page 2, you're going to look right here under where it says 1. This is actually page 483 in the book. And it reads on this wise: the contributions of the Negro to human civilization are innumerable and immemorable. Let me just zoom this in just a little bit. Let us first get some glimpses of him, chiefly as an individual, in contact with the past of other cultures than his own. Ancient Egypt knew him both bond and free. How about that? Back to Egypt and ships. Ancient Egypt knew him both bond and free. His blood flowed in the veins of not a few of the mighty pharaohs. Nefertari, the famous queen of Amis, the king of Egypt, who drove the Hyksos from the land, founded the 18th dynasty, ca. 1700 BC, and was a negress. Wait a minute, hold on. Nefertari was a negress? Was a negress of great beauty,